I am General VP Malik, former Chief of Army Staff of India. My topic today is Afghanistan, a military defeat or a political failure, or was it a military defeat from a political failure? Ladies and gentlemen, since 15th August this year, military strategists and historians, they have a new topic at hand, which is to analyze the rapid collapse of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. And this subject, which has international implications and a lot of lessons, has become important. For the last 20 years, Afghanistan had received active support from most of the world, particularly from the USA and the NATO countries. During this period, a very large number of US armed forces and ISAF, that is International Security Assistance Force, they were deployed in Afghanistan for its security from Al-Qaeda and other militants. These nations and many others, including India, gave sophisticated weapons, ammunition and equipment, and they trained them to use these. The Afghan armed forces had over 180,000 personnel in the army, nearly 6,800 personnel in the Air Force, and 183 aircraft, which included Black Hawk helicopters. So why did the Afghan military, which had been looked after by the United States and European militaries, collapse so rapidly in July, August of this year? Let me start with USA, which shaped the destiny of Afghanistan since October 2001. As you all know, to avenge 9/11 shock, the USA invaded Afghanistan to change and destroy the regime there, and also Al-Qaeda and its leaders. But then after that success, which came about within a period of 1.5 months, it kept shifting its goalposts from eliminating Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden to setting up a new national government, to nation building and delivering modernity, and building Afghan military on the lines of its own forces. In this shifting of goalposts, the USA got more and more involved in the landlocked, tribe-ridden Afghan morass. Taliban and Al-Qaeda insurgents could not be eliminated. Why? Because they were supported and sheltered by Pakistan. And Pakistan was US's own major non-NATO ally, and therefore USA kept a shut eye on Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, somewhere I have read Alexander the Great, who invaded India through Afghanistan, he said, Afghanistan was easy to march into, but hard to march out from. No wonder this land has often been called a graveyard of empires. After losing 2,461 soldiers and sinking over $2 trillion to prop up the Afghan government, the USA finally made up its mind to pull out its forces from Afghanistan. And then when this decision was taken, they were in such a hurry that they didn't even bother to consult the NATO forces, NATO allies, or even the Afghan government in Kabul. In February 2019, the US administration signed Doha Agreement with Taliban without involving the ruling Afghan government. And thereafter, it took no interest in the intra-Afghan talks. The agreement put an expiry date on American interest in Afghanistan, and it shaped the circumstances for combat situation thereafter. Between February 2019 and July 2021, this year, there were 4,500 violent clashes between Taliban and Afghan forces. But the US and its allied forces did not undertake any offensive operations against Taliban. Did the US military prepare an exit plan? We don't know. But the difference of opinion, which is now becoming visible between the President of the United States and his senior-most military advisor, General Mark Milley, that indicates that there was no agreement on exit plan between the military and the civil administration. But with available information now, it is apparent that there was no agreement between the civil and the military on the exit plan. What about Afghan political leaders? When Taliban militants were closing in to Kabul, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani ran away from the country. And as can be expected, this was a great sense of political betrayal to all the Afghan people, particularly the Afghan military. Let me now look at the military issues. First, what happened on the ground in July and August this year? As I have mentioned earlier, the Afghan security forces had been trained on the US military model based on high-tech special reconnaissance units, helicopters, and effective airstrikes, etc., which supported its infantry. With withdrawal deadline for US forces, the air support role, the rules of engagement changed overnight. More importantly, 17,000, I'm repeating, 17,000 support contractors who possessed all the proprietary software and who maintained all types of aircraft and weapon systems, they all vanished. They left Afghanistan by July. Black Hawk helicopters, C-130 transport, surveillance drones, all these were grounded. Air surveillance and missile defense systems had physically been removed. Real-time intelligence and access to software, which tracked vehicles, weapons, personnel, had now disappeared. While the Afghan military lost aerial surveillance and laser-guided weapon capacity, the Taliban, fighting with small arms and improvised IEDs, or improvised explosive devices, they went for rural and border areas. The Taliban avoided Afghan military bases, which in any case could not be replenished with ammunition, rations, or other tools of combat without aerial and helicopter support. The Taliban thus managed to overrun many bases. In many places, entire Afghanistan military units surrendered. The military morale was devastated. The Afghanistan military stopped fighting. Let me now mention some fundamental human resource factors which affected the Afghan forces. We've all heard about corruption and nepotism in the Afghanistan government. Mind you, this had also crept into the military in a big way. Many military leaders had been installed not because of their merit or because of their credentials, but because of personal or tribal linkages with politicians. And these senior officers lacked military experience or even the ability to inspire the confidence and trust of soldiers. Disruptions to food rations fuel supplies, all result of stealing or corrupt contract practices. These also affected the morale of the troops. The Afghan military lacked the strong sense of nationalism, the value system, our military traditions and ethos, which is so essential for the soldiers who are asked to risk their lives for the country. No one knows it better than the Indian Armed Forces. The Afghan forces were plagued with poor cohesion, illiteracy, and indiscipline, including drug abuse. I am told nearly 75% of troops were illiterate. And on account of widespread corruption in recruitment, a high percentage comprised ghost battalions, which means they were existing only on paper and not on the ground. In 2009, nearly a quarter of Afghan troops had deserted. And in the heat of battle, many of them went into hiding rather than engage the enemy. Another significant problem for the Afghan forces was a high level of drug abuse. According to Special Investigator General for Afghan reconstruction, more than 50% of the soldiers were using drugs. There were a large number of fragging incidents, soldiers killing each other while in barracks. And what about cohesion? All American personnel serving in Afghanistan were asked to carry their weapons at all times. Whenever a group of American troops were on duty with Afghan troops, an American sentry was required to stand apart on guard with a loaded weapon. I now come to a few lessons, the important lessons. Firstly, of course, shifting of political goals. Do not keep shifting political goals. And so frequently that the military cannot develop its own strategy and plan. And this is what happened in the month of May, June, July, and August this year. There was a difference of opinion on the exit plan between the American administration and its military, which has now come out in the open during the congressional briefings. The manner in which US military exited from Afghan bases after losing 13 soldiers at the Kabul airport, I'm talking of August this year, that gives an impression that there was total confusion in Washington and Kabul. The military did not have any plan which matched political exit demand. And therefore, I believe that the Atmanirbharta in national security is the most important lesson for any country. Ladies and gentlemen, these days we talk of our face-off with China. Many people talk of Quad, AUKUS, etc. Military alliances don't count for much, believe you me, and I have seen it, the strategic alliances or strategic partnership during Kargil war also. One cannot depend on any foreign power for the security of your own borders, whether it is a question of training or traditions or weapons, ammunition. I know that during Kargil war, we did not get the kind of support that we expected on purchase terms from many of our friendly countries. American operational art and tactics, this is what the Afghan forces were taught by the Americans. Now, there was a total mismatch. While these are highly technical special reconnaissance units, helicopters, this is what the Americans use. This could not be absorbed by Afghan troops who were not as illiterate as the US forces. And lastly, but probably the most importantly, the sense of nationalism, value system, military traditions, and ethos. This, I believe, is most important for any national army. And these are essential for the soldiers who are asked to risk their lives for the country. That, I'm afraid, was missing in the Afghan military. So what happened in Afghanistan? According to a senior Afghan military officer, the Afghan forces were betrayed by politics and presidents. Jai Hind.